Hey, this is Zach Log the Great, and I am here tonight with my friend Nate,
Hello.
who has deigned once again to share his face with us. And we are joined by Uriel,
Hello.
and we are getting together tonight to talk about Robert Frost's poem, "An Old Man's Winter Night." Before we get to that, I did want to remind everybody, if you like my work, you like my channel, any aspect of it, you want to help support, you can go to subscribestar.com/Zachlog hyphen the hyphen great and sign up to support me there. Also, if you'd like to see other things I do, you can go to my Substack, zachlog.substack.com, and I have book reviews, I have short fiction, and I have occasionally random thoughts on poetry and other topics. So, um, having said all that, oh, I knew there was something. There's always something. Having said all of that, oh, and the microphone is wrong. How do I change that?
It
There we go.
sounded just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, did it change? Uh, did it change how I sound at all?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You sound a bit louder.
Okay. Does it? New system, technical issues. Anyway, do I sound? Did it change now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sound
Yeah,
fine.
you sound fine.
All
You
right.
sound better, actually. Yeah.
Yes. Because that's through this instead of it actually got booted over to these. Yay! New
Ah,
system, technical issues. Um,
so to get back to the poem,
yes.
before
Um,
we even read it,
Let me get that up on screen. You guys can tell me when you see it, and Uriel has volunteered to read
Yep.
it for us tonight. When you're ready.
Yep. All out of doors looked darkly in at him through the thin frost, almost in separate stars that gathers on the pane in empty rooms. What kept his eyes from giving back the gaze was the lamp tilted near them in his hand. What kept him from remembering what it was that brought him to that creaking room was age. He stood with barrels round him, at a loss, and having scared the cellar under him in clomping there, he scared it once again in clomping off, and scared the outer night, which has its sounds familiar, like the roar of trees and crack of branches, common things, but nothing so like beating on a box. A light he was to no one but himself, where now he sat, concerned with he knew what, a quiet light, and then not even that. He consigned to the moon, such as she was, so late arising, to the broken moon, as better than the sun in any case, for such a charge, his snow upon the roof, his icicles upon the wall to keep, and slept. The log that shifted with a jolt once in the stove disturbed him, and he shifted, and eased his heavy breathing, but still slept. One aged man, one man, can't fill a house, a farm, a countryside, or, if he can, it's thus he does it of a winter night.
Okay. Thank you, Uriel. And as he was the reader, Nate, would you like to lead off with your first thoughts?
not my favorite Frost poem. It's just kind of sad. It's like, this old guy, he's all by himself, alone in the cold. Can't remember why he's moving around in the dark, but he eventually gives up and goes back to sleep, all by himself.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I guess like that. It says he died in Boston in 1963. So I'm guessing he wrote this in like 1962 and a half. Like,
Well, I mean, to be fair, a good writer can, project himself into a situation that is not his own. In
oh,
fact,
of
I think that
course.
would be one of the primary definitions of a good writer. I don't
It's
know
just
about
that
the.
this is so, it's just, like I've always enjoyed Robert Frost. Tends to have like a sort of rueful humor to things, but this is all just rude. There's no humor. It's just sad.
Mhm.
Like like man, okay, poor dude with his barrels and icicles, and that's all he's got to worry about. That's all of his charges. No grandkids.
Mhm.
I mean, does he have like? Are there animals in the barn? Is there a barn? Like, what's? He's just really all by himself, and it's sad to me.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know, like
I
if there's even
agree.
like a little dog or a rat
Mhm.
keeping him company, but no, it's just barrels in the cellar.
Well, and
I,
it's
I
I think one thing. Oh, I think one thing I really liked about this poem, and the reason I chose it, is because it's Robert Frost, and this is one case, and he does this in other cases. Um, he's really good at like depicting quiet but very clear emotion.
Hmm.
Um, and like that absolutely comes through here. Um, Not something I'm especially good at. I like blowing things up. I'm I am I am much more in the mode of Michael Bay than than this. But I admire people who can do it. And it's okay, I can think of one case where I think I kind of did that. But not nearly so subtle. But anyway, um but it's and like you look at this and it's not like some horrible tragedy. Um but it is sad and painful, and like you you feel exactly where this guy is. And but it's also like there's no point where it's like and a tear rolled down his lonely old cheek. It's like no, it's
Yeah.
and so it's subtle, powerful, very real emotion is impressive to me.
Yeah, that's impressive. I just don't like it. It's one of those things. It's like a very complicated dish of food, but I'm after rice and gravy. I'm just like, I can tell you worked very hard on this, and I know I couldn't cook this. At the same time, it's not what I want.
did did you notice there's no color at all,
Huh.
and
No,
yet
you're right.
the picture he paints is clear as glass. I mean, well, okay, that I didn't intend to make that a pun, but I guess I made that a pun. But uh, the picture is clear as glass, and I think the lack of color is absolutely deliberate here
Oh
because
yeah.
the guy is purposeless. He has no purpose anymore. He has this place, and you could tell. I mean that you get the impression from this, like you said, subtle, right? But you get the impression from this that he just loves his house and his home. And this is his home, and he's been there for forever, right? But without anybody to pass it to, without anybody to be there with him and to pass that chain on, it's purposeless.
Yeah.
It's just he's facing down the end.
Well, and it's yeah, and it's he consigned to the moon uh his like okay, you take charge of this. I did like the to the moon. It's better than the sun for taking care of the snow and the icicles. Like the sun's not gonna do a good job with that. Hey moon, have you got this? But um one thing he does here that I like, and again, just subtle, not not hammering on it, and you've got to be looking. Um, the log that shifted with a jolt once in the stove disturbed him, and he shifted. Okay, the log shifted, and the old man also shifted, and the old man is like this log, burning up, slow is being used up,
Mhm.
and is coming to ashes, basically, and that I thought that was a nice touch there, but again, like you have to be paying attention to catch these things, and it's really well done. It's also interesting to me the way it starts, um, because okay, all out of doors looked at him through thin frost that gathers on the pane in empty rooms, and it starts outside the house through the window, and then you join him, which is a careful shift in perspective there, which is also pretty cool. And then what kept his eyes from giving back the gaze was the lamp tilted near them in his hand. And like if again another thing, if you're not paying attention, you don't think about this. But like if you're um, if you're in a it's a basic feature of glass that when you look from a lighted place to a unlighted place, it's going to reflect back on you. And so that's what he has light, and he has this lamp, um, but it's actually keeping him from seeing outside, which is a kind of contradiction, and also something I just thought of just now. It's also like reflecting back him because that's what you see when you're looking through glass, and you have light, and the other side doesn't. So so other than I don't like it very much, Nate.
I, it puts me in mind of those like sort of very conceptual movies from the late noughties where you would be like, it goes in and like the character sits up and like looking straight into the camera, just and everything is very sad and everything is very quiet and nothing goes on and it spends like 45 minutes drilling in that this person lives, like you said, this very quiet solitude, and they may not cry about it. They may not make a kick up a fuss, but at the same time, what's the point?
Well, and then it doesn't
And so
really.
when you're talking about nature like looking in on him, I'm like, it's getting ready. It feels to me when you said that, I was like, it's like it's kind of getting ready to go in there and reclaim all this. It's like, okay, this is going to be our house soon. What's up in here? Are we going to need to send vines? Is there a good place for an owl? Like, this is all going to be ours, in the next couple of years. So we should probably figure out what to do with it.
I hadn't considered that, like why, like what is looking in at him and with what intent. That's not a
Mm.
Well, as I
question.
said, it doesn't feel like malicious. It just feels inevitable. It's not like this is a horror thing where it's like, nature is like trying to get him. It's just that nature is like just waiting. The earth, the earth is, just waiting on receipt of his bones because it knows that he's coming.
Well, and again, many things unstated in this poem. It doesn't say like he has no heirs, but they're not visible. Um, and you know, without that, without someone to pick up after you, that's what's going to happen. You know, without someone else to pass things on to, you know, what. whether that's your own children or intellectually, in an intellectual heir or something like that, without someone to pass things on to, the things you built are just gonna, entropy is gonna come and get them. Um, it's what is it? Chesterton, because I think I'm contractually obligated to, reference him and Ted Kaczynski once a video. Um, but Chesterton says that, like, if you want to have a white post, you can't leave it alone. You've got to continually come back and paint it white. And he says that's the mistake of conservatives who think leaving things alone keeps them the same. Um, uh,
Yeah.
White horse and the white horse fail. Yeah. Yep.
so how about you, Uriel? Any particular moments that stuck out for you in this one?
Well, I don't know about moments, but there's nature all over here, but there is no supernature. A man who doesn't have an heir to be a legacy, even if he's all alone, he can still have meaning and purpose, and perhaps more than he even knows if he's alone with God. But this man is quite obviously not alone with God in that sense. We still know, like, to this day, the names of many famous, monks and hermits, even from 17, 18 centuries ago, right? But I'd like to cast back and look at and think about another poem that we actually, this is the first poem that we three of us did together, the Song of Durin, and it's almost exactly the same except it's completely different. Yeah, it's full of color, and this is colorless, and it starts off, the world was young, the mountains green, no stain yet on the moon was seen. The world, no words were laid on stream or stone when Durin woke and walked alone. And it goes on. It talks about how great everything was, and then he talks about how everything's old and tired now. The world is gray, the mountains old, the fortress fire is ashen cold. No harp is rung, no hammer falls. The darkness dwells in Durin's halls. And then it keeps going. A shadow lies upon his tomb in Moria and Khazad Dûm, but still the sunken stars appear in dark and windless Mirror. There lies his crown in waters deep, till Durin wakes again from sleep. And that's what I mean by nature versus supernature here. Tolkien did almost exactly the same thing before Robert Frost. Uh, and yet he brought that back in. He brought in the eucatastrophe, you know, and I agree that that's the eucatastrophe is missing here. And as a Christian, I just, I mean, I know you've got tragedy, but this isn't it. Nothing feels complete without that eucatastrophe, because this world isn't all there is. That's my opinion.
Well, and at the same time, like, Ecclesiastes is, one of
Mm,
the books of the Bible. And it's not
yes,
exactly cheerful or hopeful. And so,
no,
like, this kind of picture, is a part of who we are, and is a part of how, God wants us to see ourselves at least in some respect. And so, but yeah, it's
but you've got to. This picture is important because everything does fall to dust. No legacy lasts forever. You know, everything gets forgotten and grows older. The world is eventually going to grow old and tired. Maybe we're even there, and it's going to, so to speak, go to bed and burn down in the stove. But at the same time, yes, well, what do we do with that knowledge? Well, that's what's missing here. What we do with that knowledge is, at least as the Christian answer is, we look at the light that is not dimmed by time, right? The light that came into time so that we could be free from time, so to speak, and entropy and death.
Let's see.
Well, you can't find lasting hope in a perishable world.
Yeah.
And so it's worrying about icicles along the wall, to quote the poem. Everything, as you say, everything winds down and it melts. The sun does come and take away the icicles. And that's the thing about it, too, is that the sun isn't bad. It's warmth, it's life. Without the sun, we're all dead. But if what you're worried about is icicles and snow, these sort of fleeting, incredibly temporal things, or temporal things at all, as your purpose, then you're doomed to despair in a way, because you have to understand that they are gone. There will be a time when it's not going to be there. You can carve the mightiest tower out of unbreakable stone, and eventually the earth will suck it back down into the mantle again. The history of the hills is not even written forever.
Well,
And
and it's
so to find that timeless purpose, you have to latch on to something outside of time. And so, that's why we Christians serve the Lord. That's why we put our purpose and trust in Him, because we know it's the only thing that stays.
I just realized I I think you could almost cast this poem as Ozymandias writ small. Um,
Yeah.
because it's like, he, there's this old man, he's, trying to, maintain his life. He can't, keep things together. The things that he has are going to melt away in the sun. And again, I didn't see that aspect of it. You know, you know, 5 out of 5 for subtlety. But like, the snow on his roof, the icicles along the wall, these are the things he has. Everything is coming apart. And, it happens to the great and it happens to the small if you don't build something. Well, and it's what is it? Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, it's
And I guess that's the thing, is it's not even sad. Like, in the way it's written, it's not presented as like this is, depressing. It's just the way it is. So sadness is, I used the word sadness when I first talked about it, and that's not right. It's bleak. Once long ago was an antique man, and he stood upon his legs and said, "What?" And then he went back to bed. I mean, like, Ozymandias Writ Small is a really great, sort of a really great
Yeah.
comparison.
I wouldn't necessarily say, that, that was sad either, but I would say it was definitely there's despair in there. There's despair.
it's also kind of interesting to me, like I said, we start the perspective, the unstated perspective starts with the outside world, starts with nature, wondering what's going on in here. Um, and then, it zooms in and we're following this guy around. He's walking around and he doesn't know why. And oh my God, the line, what kept him from remembering what it was that brought him to that creaking room was age. Like, that just, that's a punch. That is a punch.
Yeah.
And it's but then like he's wandering around. Um, he scared it once again in clomping off and scared the outer night. And so this outside, which is watching him, and like kind of wondering what's going on here, just kind of moving around in this house, just um, finding his way, and he doesn't know why. Like it also has, I guess you could say, a little bit of the power of Adam over the animals, the power of Adam over nature. God placed us in charge here, and a even a tired, lonely, forgetful old man can scare the outer night just by walking around. And so it's
Well, if you think about it, he's carrying in his hand the power to transmute in some small way that outer night into a very limited daytime. He can change the fundamental nature of the darkness by, the light is in his hands, to go back to the sort of divine spark and talking about Adam. And so, yeah, the idea that he could scare the outer night is what if he comes out here and I'm not night quite as much as I was anymore? I mean, the meadow isn't as, or wherever he built his home isn't as much nature as it was anymore, even though nature's still there to look in. If he goes outside with that lamp in his hand, the night is now not quite as much night as it was before while he's there, even though the night can still look at him from beyond the edge of his lamplight.
Mhm.
It's kind of interesting to me.
But
yeah, and
but
it's go ahead.
but at the center of this poem, a light he was to no one but himself. And you're right about his power and everything, but he has no purpose anymore to his power because he is not a light anymore to anyone but himself. And that is the saddest but central idea of this.
Yeah. Which has its sounds familiar like the roar of trees and crack of branches, common things, but nothing so like beating on a box. It's just sort of hollow noise.
Yeah, and that
It's
description of the
just
sound, like that is again without
this was
actual.
shot this was shot in black and white on like silver film with a freaking like cotton filter over the microphone. Like it's just
And like nothing so like beating on a box, and like again without actually saying it, like just futility. Like what are we even doing here? Like, oh, he's just smacking a box for no reason. Like that's the sound he's generating. And it's yeah, like Frost's ability in this poem to like pack in so many ideas without actually saying almost any of it is just amazing.
Mm.
yeah, no, like I said, the more we talk about it, the more I admire the writing skill that went into it. And just to kind of point at something next to the point you're making and be like, look at that. And then you can't help but see in the way it's framed what the point is. Just like, that's fantastic. Still don't like it.
It's very well done, but not my thing.
And
It's like, it reminds me of The Watchmen, that
yeah.
they made the movie of it. And I saw the movie, and I remember after watching it, I was like, that was a pretty cool movie. I never want to see that again.
The
Thank you. I hate it. Yeah.
the comic, have either of you read the comic?
No.
Okay, I have read it,
Unfortunately.
and it the movie conveys the tone pretty well, I would say. Although the comic, because it has time, is able to make things make a little more sense and has other things as well. But yeah, it is also kind of funny. to ride this tangent just a little more. Apparently, Alan Moore was actually pretty angry that people liked Rorschach, and he's like, "No, he's supposed to be this disgusting loser. Like, why are you saying why are you admiring him?" And it's like,
Because
and
he had principles.
right, and it's
Just
like he
right is right, wrong is wrong. Bad men should be in danger from good men, or at least just men, if not necessarily good.
yeah, and it's like he you know, let the truth come out, damn the consequences.
Mm.
And it's
Hmm.
like, well, and then also at a somewhat baser level, how can you not love someone who says, what is it? I'm not locked in here with you. All of you are locked in here with me. And he makes it stick. It's not like he says that and then gets his ass handed to him. He says that and he makes it stick. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
how do you not love someone like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
The
I think
I
I think that we need to rotate the meeting.
yeah, we are yeah, I think we have I don't know. Do you think we can wrap it up? Did you feel like you have much more to say, or are we about to the end?
I'm sure we could talk
I,
all night long, but I don't know if it would be around the point or to the point, let's say.
no, I think it would just be kind of like doing the same thing we've done and going, oh, and then this, oh, and then that.
Okay. Well,
We
in
we're
that
just
case,
we'd just be sort of fishing in the same pond. I mean, like once you've yanked nine bluegill, they're all just bluegill.
okay. Well, in that case, Uriel, do you have any last thoughts you would like to put in on the poem tonight?
Uh, uh, well, if you can't give what you have to anybody else in your life, then try to give it to God, and try to give it to God anyway, even if you're giving it to other people in your life. How's that for moralizing?
And Nate, how about you? Any last thoughts on this episode of Frost?
Just what I said earlier, you know. Don't worry about your barrels. Don't worry about your snow, your icicles, you know, your log in the stove. Be mindful of eternity and be a servant of the eternal. Follow God and his justice, just like Uriel was saying. Whatever you have, give it to God. Love him with all you are, with all that you have, and everything you could be. And then, even if one quiet night you find yourself unable to fill a house, you have to remember, you'll be able to remember that your home is in heaven and that that is a house that's never empty.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you all for watching, and God be with you.